hosts, the Bay Area Brawler, Skylar Greenberg, and your Colonial Champion, Sean McCoy. Welcome to the Court Martial Podcast!
And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, one and all, to the Court Martial Podcast, a special news edition, because January just will not leave us the fuck alone when it comes to news in the wrestling world. It has been jam-packed, uppercuts, punches, knees, heads being shit on. It's the whole gamut. The whole gamut. And if you want to watch it, you got to pay for a streaming service, but not for this podcast. I am your Colonial Champion, Sean McCarty, anus fully intact, not on top of a female, and instead, we are going to use this to shit all over the news of the week, but I cannot let that sphincter splode alone. To join me is the man who knows a lot about sphincter play, probably more than I do, which is a little disconcerting, but, you know, that's just the way that virginity goes sometimes. You know, you sometimes just got to take it in the derriere for Jesus, but this man knows all about Jesus and all about being just such a holy man, and definitely emphasis on the holes. Josh again, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good, and my holes are nice and plugged right now. Got to keep all my shit in, and not going to pull a Skylar and just unload on the toilet mid-podcast. That's not my gimmick.
Well, thankfully, Skylar did not just take a dump during the middle of it. At least it was just a small relief of the urinary tract. They do kind of have that look, and they're two big boys, and I'm sure you can guess as Skylar takes a piss.
I'm going to the bathroom.
Yes, you are, and everyone can fucking hear it. Sky, that's gonna get us canceled. Your rap is gonna get us canceled. You peeing in the middle of the podcast is gonna get us canceled.
I'm sorry, we've been going for 3 hours. I thought that was funny.
Oh, that is a top 10 Court Martial Podcast moment.
Brock Lesnar would have loved that one episode of our podcast.
Well, listen, before we get to before the audience presses the F5 button to refresh the page, let's introduce the man of the hour, the man with the power, too sweet to be sour. He is the Bay Area Brawler himself, Captain UTI, Skylar Greenberg. How you doing, buddy?
I have to use the bathroom one time, and now I'm... Jesus Christ.
You know, with a name like Captain UTI, if you say it Captain Udi, you could be part of the bloodline.
I don't want to be a member of the bloodline. I'm good.
Well, and they're good, and they're even better, and if you like it or hate it, beat him. But we've got other things to beat, and that seems to be...
Michael Cole, calm down.
That seems to be the story of the week. We have so much to go through, and Sky, I'm actually going to let you kind of take the reins on this show now that I've done our intros, because this has been, and always will be, your segment above anybody else's. So, folks, roll that affectionate, milk-drinking, just like Kurt Angle footage for our news of the week. Roll it. Coming straight to you from the Golden Gate Garage, this is the Wrestle News with Skylar Green.
Welcome to the news of the week. Thank you for that intro, Sean. I very much appreciate it. But yeah, there's so much that happened this past week that we had to basically do this timeline-wise because everything broke at the same fucking time. I don't know how, I don't know why, but it did. So
it's been a roller coaster since Hard to Kill.
Dude, the fucking bottom fell out. And in some cases, literally.
Yeah.
I mean, there was both good and bad stuff, which we'll cover. But, we're going to go timeline-wise as best as we can.
Dude, that's a very generous way of putting it. The good was good. The bad was so heinous.
Well, Joshua, you want to talk so much. Why don't you do this segment?
Well,
No. I'm not.
Hey, Skyler,
Before
come on,
you
man.
even-
You can't just pass around the news back to each of us. You know, you can't just throw it around and then just toss it back. And, you know, you're the one who controls who news is who.
And that's why.
I know what you're doing, Sean. Please stop. Please stop. Yeah.
Go ahead, Sky.
Inside an NDA now.
Okay. Anyways, before we lose too much of this, we're gonna go back and try and talk about things as they happen. We're gonna start with small stuff, and then we're going to the big stuff. The first things first, if we're gonna talk about Mr. Waluigi Man himself, Seth Rollins. So we didn't have the chance to talk about this because it happened a little bit afterward. But y'all remember that match with Jinder Mahal?
Boy, do I.
I do. And it was a hell of a 2-week run. Good for Jinder.
The most over he's ever gotten in his
Literally,
career.
like they had like an unintended gem. But you know, I anticipate that it's kind of like Titus O'Neil, where you can only really tolerate him in that amount. 2 weeks, that's it. Put him back on the shelf. Titus, happy WrestleMania. Now get the fuck out of here.
Right. But anyways, Seth Rollins had the chance to announce the Monday night episode of Raw on the 21st that he did get injured. He had a torn, now I have to look at this up because I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, a torn MCL and a grade 2 injury to his PCL, which are basically, those are the connective tissues in your knee so that way your knee can bend. And when those things tear or are partially torn, they hurt like a bee.
Yeah, I can relate to that as someone who has
Funnily
torn his
enough,
MCL
they are not
before.
the bee's knees.
Ba-dum.
Thank you. Doing my
But
editing.
thankfully,
Editor,
it was not
hold on,
a
editor, I want that pause, that real long pause. I want that kept in before you throw that Gary Budum just in there.
Anyways, the point though is that Seth Rollins announced the injury, but said that he will do everything in his damnedest to recover in time to wrestle for WrestleMania. Now that injury is a 3-month injury. It happened in January. Relatively speaking, he could be ready in time for Mania if everything goes correctly.
Dude.
If the Jets are in playoff contention, I'll come back and defend the title.
Dude, can I just say that Seth may have dodged a bullet? Because, like, look at the past several months. People have been blowing out their knees
Like
over
crazy.
Like, Charlotte, Cora Jade. Didn't Charlotte get the terrible triad? Basically, the Tegan
She got
treatment.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah, Seth dodged a bullet because it could have been so much worse.
Yeah, the MCL is basically, it's the best one to tear if you're gonna tear something. And that's it.
Yeah.
I remember being about 10 playing football, and I tore mine getting tackled. And my wonderful father decided it wasn't worth going to the hospital over. And I was, of course, a 10-year-old kid going, yeah, I can tough it out. And I didn't walk for like a week. I was limping like hell for a good solid week because I couldn't bend my leg like at all. But
Damn.
and it did eventually heal, and now I can feel when it rains. But at the same time, assuming that Seth is not just walking the injury off, it is achievable. It is achievable, and even if you're close, you can get away with it. I mean, modern medicine, the way it is, and with the lack of the need to test wrestlers anymore, I'm not saying Seth's going to come back looking jacked, but there are definitely ways, and meaningful, proactive ways, to accelerate your healing process. And that's not a knock or a criticism. That's a fact. It's come a long way.
Why haven't we made sensu beans yet?
Well,
Because sensu beans are magic.
Well, we
Exactly. Dragon Ball magic.
continue, Sky.
I feel like this podcast is just going to be Gary being on standby. Ba-dum.
Ow.
The torment in Sean's soul I heard when I said that was amazing.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Anyway, continue, Skylar.
Yeah.
But anyways, the point before this all got ruined is that Seth Rollins should be able to return in time, although most likely, and this is what I've heard, there aren't plans to have him defend the title until that point, which makes sense given everything that's happened.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's only one more premium live event left, right? It's just Elimination Chamber, and then Giggity Goo, WrestleMania, Ahoo.
And WrestleMania is always in April, so they have a narrow window, but they have a window.
Well, and it also gives Seth some time to kind of just talk up his feuds, because presumably we know who he's going to fight, presumably. And
presumably it's not like they're going to have him wrestle ancillary title defenses anymore, not with the stakes of having the Mania main events be available.
Well, and I know that it's still not at the level and never will be at the level of Roman Reigns' belt, but to the credit of Seth Rollins, I think that he has established it enough that he could take a break from defending it for a month or two and nobody's going to really bat an eye about it.
You say this, but I have heard a little bit of whining from our good friends over at the IWC about, but he's not supposed to not defend the title every segment.
I literally do not give a fuck.
Me either.
It's like, give the man a break. For God's sakes, they've been talking about his injured back for like 6 months since the Shinsuke Nakamura feud. And this guy has been working his ass off like every night. Like, he deserves the break. Like, give him a rest.
Seth and his world title reign is one of the reasons why Raw, in my opinion, is better than SmackDown right now. Because they have a champion who's there.
And we'll get to him. Get to him.
Well,
we will.
And just another point about Seth, just for what it's worth. Lately, he's been toning a little bit of his over-the-top-ishness down. A little bit. I mean, not his outfits, obviously. Like, let's not go crazy. But, like, the way that he talks to people and he's interacted with people has felt far more conjugally, tangibly real than it has in probably the last year or so. The past 4 or 5 months, I've seen that change in Seth, where he's kind of just reverting back to him, while he still has a little bit of the extra embellishment, which is I've really come to enjoy and respect out of Seth.
Agreed.
And never did I think that I would give Seth Rollins such high praise, but he has so much more than earned it over the past year or so. But here's to you, Seth. Hope your recovery goes well, and we can have a good main event match with you, which you genuinely... when was the last time Seth main evented WrestleMania?
He hasn't, other than the cash-in.
Was it 2015? Like, he probably deserves this WrestleMania main event as much as Punk does.
The issue for him is that basically Roman's been stealing all the main event shit with Brock, so no one's had a chance to actually, properly main event when those two are around.
Yeah. Well, but I think that could change. But, that's the benefit of also having 2 nights of WrestleMania. You get 2 main events. And it feels equally.
But one's more prestigious than the other.
Not really. I mean, I still feel like the tag team match had an equal amount of prestige as the world title did. The way they built it.
But it was night 1 and night 2 is the clear bigger main event. Oh, bullshit.
Well, I'm also a sucker for the tag team main event stuff.
I'm also a sucker for having 2 nights of WrestleMania, so you have multiple main events, because the fucking first night should be just as prestigious as the second night.
Yeah, remember the 7-hour fiascos we had to endure before they decided to make that move by force of pandemic?
Dude.
Oh, God. WrestleMania 34 especially.
No, 35 was the worst. 35 was so long.
Painfully long.
Christ. It was a good show, but holy shit, it went on forever.
And they botched the finish. Thank you, Rhonda.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rhonda. But anyways, let's move on to the next thing. And this is the TKO WWE announcement of a couple of board members, some guy we don't have in the report, and The Rock joining the board of directors.
Good for him.
Well, it took all this time, but he finally has the rights to the name The Rock.
Yeah.
How fast before he's just billed in that in every movie he's in? We will never see the name Dwayne Johnson again.
Dude, if he, I'm surprised he hasn't legally changed his name to The Rock at this point.
No, he's never been able to. Guess what he can do now?
I'm surprised he hasn't already in the couple days that this has happened. I'm surprised he hasn't already done it.
He couldn't get a camera crew up by the office fast
I'm sure
enough.
he's been too busy dealing with the NDAs.
Yeah, what a shitstorm. Here's your day one, Dwayne.
Imagine being The Rock. Yay, I'm now a
Oh my God.
Oh. Shit.
All right, task number 1, clean this mess.
I'm going to hide, funnily enough, under a rock for the next few weeks, so y'all have fun sorting this shit out.
Right. Now, of course, The Rock did appear at the Wall Street event with WWE as they were doing the announcement of the board members. And the thing with him is that there were quotes about him talking about being involved and whether or not that means he'll get in the ring at some point, even though he's the board director. He said it's a possibility, but it has to be for the right story.
Take a guess what that story might be. I
don't want to.
Yeah. And, well, he's the one who said it, not me. Because he was really headstrong about wanting to do a Mania with Romani Renzuno. And I
Newest TAWTF superstar, Romani Renzulli, the Italian alternate universe Roman Reigns.
Acknowledge your pasta. And, yeah, it's...
Acknowledge me!
Yeah, and it's sadly... The reality is, I don't know if The Rock would... I don't know if right now he would interject himself that rapidly into plans. I know that they've been making teases, and I know that there's been something into that, but I get the feeling that Triple H has a bigger plan that does not involve The Rock taking over a position of something that he's planned well over 2 years for. That's my suspicion. I could be wrong and very, 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 very disappointed. WWE has hurt me before. I would not be surprised. But this is a new administration with no scruples or shithead takers. So I'm intrigued. And I'm going to trust the process still that they're not going to pull the trigger on something like that.
Dude,
I want to choke you every single time you say the words choke the process. Fuck you.
I'm trusting Triple H.
I just go back, like, you said that they've hurt you. They've hurt you with back-to-back consecutive WrestleManias.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's every WrestleMania.
Not every.
Not
but
all of them.
The past 2 specifically.
Well, the thing was, the problem with WrestleMania 39 is it was a tale of 2 shows. Mm-hmm. Night 1 is one of the greatest nights of wrestling I have ever seen in my life, to this day. But Night 2 and the outcome of Night 2 just completely sucked the energy out of the whole reminiscence of the show. Because
and we didn't know that, by the way, afterwards, that it was all Vince deciding to keep Roman alive.
Really? I wonder... what the hell is a conundrum? I'm pretty sure I outwardly said that was Vince's show. I said that on that show's
It honestly
review.
felt like Triple H got Night 2, and got Night 1, and Vince, outside of Gunther, Sheamus, and McIntyre, got Night 2.
And that's what we felt at the time. That is what we felt at the time. And that is...
Hopefully this go-around we're not going to have to worry about that. But real quick, I do want to just state that a lot of this news happened pre-Royal Rumble.
Yes.
Don't worry, folks. The very next episode, we are going to be reviewing the Royal Rumble because we're doing a long-ass messenger call, doing the news first, and the next episode of CMP is going to be the Royal Rumble review. So stay tuned for that.
And also, when we talk about the Royal Rumble, we're only going to talk about the Royal Rumble. We're not going to talk about any of the other surrounding stuff.
Correct.
Because
that's what this is for.
That's what this is for.
That's what this is for.
Right. It's just that we have to cover the events before this to paint the picture that's happening. Now, the same day that it was announced that The Rock was joining the board, it was announced that WWE signed a new deal with Netflix to be the flagship location where Monday Night Raw will be for the next 10 years at $500 million a year.
Jeez.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
That's $5 billion by the end of it.
Yep.
And I'll tell you what, this is a double-edged sword here, with now forcing people to watch Raw on streaming services because a lot of people still rely on free television, right? That's taken that away from a demographic that may or may not have the resources to have those streaming services. That's a risky call. But at the same time, there's a lot of households that do have Netflix that may scroll upon it just to want to see what the state of wrestling is. Raw, as Josh again mentioned, has been a definitely an increased quality show.
Mm-hmm.
There's also a possibility that without the network restrictions and the airtime that means, that we could see Raw go back to 2 hours. We could see now that there may not be a filter on what is allowed on television, but Netflix doesn't give a shit. We could see a bloodier, edgier product, not Moxley dumb shit product, but we could see a little more adult-oriented Monday Night Raw, where SmackDown will still be kind of on the TV shows, and that could be a little bit more of the clean and polished product. And there's a lot of potential here for where Raw can look and feel and act as the years go on. I think that this is overall going to be an incredibly positive change if they know what to do with it. But once again, I trust the process and that they know what they're doing with this, especially now that the person who is causing the most problems has literally cannot come back.
Well, my 2 cents is I very much hope and pray that they move to 2 hours, because as good as Raw has been for most of 2023 and for 2024 thus far, even though we're only in January, I honestly doubt that they're going to move back to 2 hours, because why would they remove content? They're all about pushing out a lot of content, but I hope they do, because as good as Raw has been, that third hour really stretches things out to where it doesn't need to be. And if they move back to a vibe that isn't exactly like, but reminiscent of the Ruthless Aggression era, I would be a fan of that. I would very much be a fan of that. But isn't it also part of the deal that in territories outside the U.S., basically all of their programming is going to be on Netflix?
So here's the thing, is that the CW network is going to get NXT. Going forward, when 2025 rolls around, SmackDown's going to be on USA Network. So SmackDown is taking Raw's place on USA Network. And USA Network will be getting that while Raw goes on to Netflix. They're doing a very smart thing in that they're moving to streaming, which is the future of watching TV. Let's be clear. Cable is dead.
Yeah.
And it's going to join its friend the radio very, very soon.
Yeah. Although that I will say, even though streaming is really picking up steam, don't ever let physical media die, okay? I very much enjoy having physical copies of the things that I watch and play. Don't let the flame die out.
WWE's no longer doing the...
I'm aware, and that makes me sad. Not Blu-rays. Fuck Blu-rays. DVD forever. And VHS.
Glad we're on the same page.
Yeah. And hey, a page is a part of a book. And a book is a physical copy.
I have no additional words to add to this conversation.
But the point being, though, is that the fact is that right now, with the way things are going, they're going to have to be where everybody else is going to be watching their shows, which, to be honest, if you think about it, right now, it's all streaming. They're going to prepare for the future just in case things go that way. Because, again, cable has limited amount of time left as being the king. In many cases, it's already dead because of what's been going on with the streaming services and all that.
Well, and you even see, other organizations like the NFL, they put a playoff game on Peacock, and everybody bitch, moaned, and complained, and then at the end of it, they ended up drawing a record number that Peacock's never seen before. Like it was a huge turnout, and it's going to be more and more like that. You know, I don't know if something as big as the Super Bowl is ever going to go off network TV, but it's going to be one of the last things on it at this rate. And thank you, Agit Pie, for destroying net neutrality and making this future possible. But the small gripes aside, I'm excited. I don't know what to say. Like this really could be the new beginning for Monday Night Raw that we have been waiting for since 2010.
Honestly, yeah. I'm cautiously optimistic.
And this is another opportunity where I could genuinely be wrong, because remember when I said, several months ago that Triple H isn't going to do anything dramatically format changing with WWE? Mm-hmm. I very well may be proven wrong here.
Now, of course, the thing is that doesn't start until 2025, so they have at least all 2024 to do their stuff.
To fuck it up, yeah.
Let's see what happens.
And another thing, Netflix has been trying to do like big streaming things with other big companies in the past, and they've had some bugs here and there. So this reprieve that they have before they start in 2025, Netflix, take this time to perfect your technology, to perfect your streaming capabilities, because I am in desperate need of something better than Peacock. When we talk about the Royal Rumble, I'm going to go on a fucking tirade about Peacock. So Netflix, please save us.
Well, but that deal still got some legs to it, though. I mean, I'm pretty sure Peacock's got the library for at least until 2026, I think. 2026
We're stuck with them for a while.
Yeah. So we're going to have to settle with Peacock for a bit, but it's a start. Yeah. It is a start. And honestly, I kind of suspect that the next one to scoop in a little bit on this deal is going to be Paramount Plus. And they're going to be the next ones to kind of take a chomp. They might get SmackDown. They might get, whatever Triple H has got cooking. But I'm going to trust the process. They're making moves. They are completely making moves here. And in the same way that TNA is very overtly making a power play, so is WWE here. And I don't fault them for that at all. And I think that given the people who are in charge, I am a lot more optimistic about its prospects than I might have been with somebody else at the helm.
Well, I mean, do we have to talk that former person that was at the helm?
Well, I don't know if you necessarily need to go into the graphic detail of everything that was alleged, but we got to at least talk about the heavy hitters.
Okay. So... Okay.
I was holding it together until I heard the wheeze.
Now, I want to be very clear about this next thing that we're going to talk about, okay? We're making jokes about it now, but for the sake of this and because of the person, I would like us to try and keep this as respectful as possible.
Yeah,
okay,
super serial. Absolutely serial. Yeah. We're all going to be serial.
Yeah, and also, I don't know how in detail about this we're going to get, but there is I'm not usually one for trigger warnings, but some of this stuff is...
This has to be a trigger warning because the things that we have read in this article from the Wall Street Journal that was released on Wednesday was things that are made of nightmares.
Yeah. If you were eating, I am so sorry if you decided to eat and listen to this podcast because you are about to regret your life choices.
Anyways, the point is that the Wall Street Journal came out with an article that was about a day or so after this, on the 25th. And I find it curious that it released in the afternoon on the 25th, but it is what it is. So Janelle Grant, who was a former WWE employee and had previously signed an NDA with Mr. McMahon for $3 million, announced that she was doing a lawsuit against Vince McMahon and WWE. I'm going to give you the details as best as I can read it from this thing, and we'll go forward from there, okay?
Yeah, and folks, this is a rare situation where most of the time our joking and shenaniganery, we always joke about getting canceled, but this is cancel material right here. So
Yeah.
if you got them sensitive ears, I know they did the disclaimer before, but this is not for the faint of heart. It's gonna get gross. It's gonna get very gross. So just sit tight and bear with us, and we'll get through this as soon as possible, and then we're gonna talk about how this all came about and the timing of all of this. But go ahead, Sky. Let's get on with it.
So the lawsuit alleges that Janelle Grant, in the middle of May of 2020, was living in her Connecticut apartment at the time, and she happened to run into Vince McMahon, who she had known a little bit about. She wasn't a wrestling fan, and that's one of the things I have to bring up right now, is that she's not one of those people who is big into wrestling. She's just a regular person. And she met Mr. McMahon, Vince, and they hit it off right away. And Vince learned that she was in a tough situation financial-wise because of the death of her parents. And Vince decided to offer her a job in the office at WWE. So she takes the job and she works there. And at one point, there was a time in late 2021 where she was invited to the office by Mr. McMahon, and supposedly he was naked in the office and made sexual passes towards her.
Continue.
A lot of the behavior was abusive, to the point where Mr. McMahon sent alleged text messages, including one in May 2020 that said, "I'm the only one who owns you and controls you. I tell you what to do, and I tell you who the fuck." Part of it is that Miss Vince had sex with her and would have her have sex with other people in the office, at hotels, on work days, on weekends. Basically, she was forced to be his sex slave in many ways.
Continue.
This even includes the sleeping with other staff members in the office, such as Johnny Ace. Mm-hmm. It also includes,
of course,
sending. It also supposedly was with sending nude pictures of herself and videos of herself to other people in the office, including a certain former wrestler / former UFC fighter. Now, the name is never mentioned, but based off of the roster and who was trying to be resigned at the time, we can all assume it's Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, it seems to be the general consensus.
Yeah.
Who requested a video of Miss Grant peeing in a sexually provocative position and then telling her that she was a bitch for doing it.
Classy.
That sounds like Brock Lesnar.
Yeah.
Apparently the worst of it was when she was involved in some sort of threesome with Vince and another person, where Vince defecated over her. I don't know if it was accident or on purpose, but that was the extreme low point.
So fucking
and all of this for
gross.
about $15,000 worth of Bloomingdale cards. And that there was some sort of
Bloomingdale
financial
cards.
arrangement that was taking place between her and Vince, that Vince just decided to stop paying, which is why we're kind of in this position now.
Well, what happened was that originally, as 2022 was rolling around and Vince resigned from the office and then came back, he had her sign an NDA for $3 million. It is assumed that the money was used by WWE's company, which was reported at the time, and what caused Vince to resign at first.
So, after 80 years, he finally fucked up. and didn't keep better track of his money with company funds, and then that opened up this whole can of worms.
This is one of those instances where you're just like, it can't possibly get worse. It can't possibly get... Oh, he shit on her? Ugh.
And folks, we're way broad stroking what is listed in this article. Like, there is a lot of details and really perverse things that this article lays out that we are not gonna, for out of respect for this woman, we're not gonna, divulge the details of.
If you want to know every disgusting, disturbing, traumatizing detail, you can go search it out for yourself.
Yeah, go look at the article, because that's not what we're trying to do here.
I don't recommend it personally, but you do you, I guess.
And that's the thing that I think we all have to put out there, is that it's for you to decide whether or not how you feel about it. The thing is that us as people, this is all alleged behavior. It hasn't been proven yet.
Mm-hmm.
The key word is yet. There currently is the lawsuit that's happening. But the reason why she's able to speak about this is because Vince McMahon reportedly stopped paying the $3 million after the initial down payments and just didn't pay her, which Vince, kind of a stupid move, but whatever.
It wasn't the only time he's done that, though. He's done that a few times with business transactions. I assume that's part of why Saudi Arabia held that plane hostage.
Yeah, and him doing that effectively makes the NDA null and void, which hopefully her lawyers will take full advantage of that and use that as a weapon in court. Because again, in order for the NDA, like when you enter an agreement, even one as fucked up as that one, it's not just the person signing it that has to keep up their end of the bargain. Both ends have to keep up their end of the bargain for the whole thing to be what it is. And if you made the NDA and you're not following through with it, then you have no deal. Or at least that's how it should be.
Well, and no matter what the level of, agreement to it there really was, because to some degree, I mean, for it to last that long, it could have been out of fear that nothing was done, before this NDA was signed. But no matter what level of agreement and acceptance there was in some of these situations, to even think that you are that powerful to exert that kind of authority and get away with it, which he did for a very long time, but it catches up with everybody eventually. Remember, Jimmy Snuka was being put on trial for murder when he had dementia and was going to die like 2 months later. It gets back to everyone. This is something that, the thing is, genuine question, be honest. When all of this came out, as gross and vile as it was, looking at Vince McMahon and knowing the Vince McMahon that you know, were you really surprised?
No.
Revolted, yes. Surprised, no.
Yeah, I mean...
This is the guy that had to be talked out of doing an incest angle between his own children.
He made Trish bark like a dog and walk around the ring. He made out with literally every diva there was from 1999 to 2004.
He told Paul Heyman he wanted The Undertaker's wife to get raped by a motorcycle gang.
So, this is...
It goes on and on.
It goes on and on. It really
Yeah.
does. It really does. But it's now catching up with him, and I'm really not that empathetic, to tell you the truth.
Me either.
This is a guy who made our booking
legend.
lives hell for years just with his delusional crap that he thought was entertaining. And that's not even my gripe, but this is a guy who stayed long past his prime and long past his expiration date. And now the chickens are coming home to roost, and now this is where I have to ask a question to the two of you, because the timing of this is insanely suspect to me. Because with Triple H and The Rock being put in this position literally the day before they do the bell ring, they do the whole deal, they do the Netflix sign, it's all agreed, this was the negotiation. There was a lot of talk that the only reason Vince was still with the company was to negotiate these deals. So is it possible that to ensure that somebody with a pretty strong stroke of power waited until that deal was done, and no sooner had the ink been dry, bam, let's get this guy as out of here as we possibly can, even if we lose the sponsorship deal with Slim Jim, which they gained back by firing Vince. But I smell a son-in-law rat in this situation. I'm not pointing a finger at anybody. But if
You're pointing the finger literally at Triple H.
Hey, listen, I'm not... Allegedly. I'm not saying it was him. But I am saying that there is somebody within that power sphere that wanted to ensure that there was no way January 6, 2023 was ever happening again. And I will bet you that is coming from somebody who has become widely respected for what he has done to change the face of the product as we know it.
It's definitely possible, but again, we may never know.
I don't think we are going to know. That's just one that I don't think we can.
Well, the problem is, and here's the thing, we are still, and I don't excuse the pun, but when it comes to this story and it being told and the way that this story is being put out, we're still in the third inning, my friends.
Yeah, like
there's
honestly,
more coming. You think this is it? Oh no.
Dude, I guarantee you that him defecating on a person's head mid-threesome, that I feel like that is just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
Like, this dude, like, again, we were saying earlier, this is all alleged, but this is so painfully in character for this guy.
Yeah. Which is why you don't see many people defending Vince on this one or saying, hey, this is all alleged. You're not hearing a lot of that in the news or in the comments or in people who normally would fight this kind of thing for the sake of due process. You're not really getting that wind for this one.
Yeah, there's no telling how low and how much more this is going to just... I am very concerned about what we don't know.
Yeah. But what we do know is he's gone, and he's not coming back.
Well, that's the thing, is that Slim Jims took out their sponsorship, and with the threat of other sponsors leaving the company, they decided that they had no choice but to have him resign from all duties in TKO/WWE.
Good.
And not a tear was wept that day.
Honestly, this, even as controversial and disgusting and sad as this whole thing is, honestly, in another way, maybe because of what you were alluding to a minute ago, Sean, this might be one of the best things to ever happen to this company. It makes them look terrible right now because this is the patriarch of this entire company. Like, he has... Imagine telling people that you have worked for this fucking guy.
Well,
even if you were on the ring crew or a cameraman,
yeah.
God forbid. Imagine being Cody Rhodes saying, yeah, that guy was my boss at one time.
Well, here's the problem. There's going to be, in a very similar way to how Chris Benoit is perceived now, it's going to be very difficult to differentiate the talent with the man.
Yeah.
Because those are two very different things, which they've done their best to distance one from the other from for a little while now, I've noticed. You know, probably for a good reason. And it's going to be very difficult now, but I think that the way that WWE looks right now is a lot better, knowing that they took as swift as action as they did.
Mm-hmm.
To go, we don't care if he's the patriarch, there is no justifying that. The WWE of old would have done laps and circles around getting away with doing this, or just wait until it all blows over and then that's it. That's what they tried to do in July of 2022, and it did not work. Yeah. Because it did not go away. And it's now at this point where I think we are turning a new page. A new day is dawning without at least 2/3 of that faction anymore. And
well, the thing though that I have to bring up is that it was talked about on the post Royal Rumble press conference. A question was asked to Cody Rhodes, and multiple questions were asked to Triple H, and people liked Cody Rhodes' response to it, but didn't like Triple H's response to it.
Well, kind of because Triple H didn't really give a response to it.
Well, what is he supposed to do? Go, yeah, that's my father-in-law. What a vile son of a bitch, but he's my father-in-law. Like, what is he supposed to say?
Yeah. It
would have been frustrating, but it would have been understandable if he said, unfortunately, I cannot comment on this because it's an ongoing lawsuit.
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't, this is going to be weird to say, but the Tony Khan approach would have worked on this one. I'm not going to talk about that. Legally, I can't.
Well, instead, he just said nothing, but he used a lot more syllables to get that point across of I'm not talking about it. But
well, the thing is that, like, the first response was, I don't want to focus on the negative. I just want to focus on the positive, which is such a Pollyanna way to go.
That actually sounds more Tony Khan than saying I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah. Honestly, yeah. Yeah, I would not have phrased it as, I don't want to talk about the negatives. I wouldn't have phrased it that way.
Now, what he did say when I'll give you the most generalized answer of what we can do to prevent this in the future, everything possible. It's a very important thing to us, a very important topic to us. It's as simple as everything possible. And the fact that he did find out about the lawsuit at the same time everybody else did, and he said, I didn't know anything about it. I haven't read it, but that's the truth.
Yeah, it's just...
I do not envy him being in. I do not envy the position that he was in.
No, I don't either. But here's the thing. I think to your point, Josh, again, I think that this is going to be brief. This moment of awkwardness and this kind of this blight on the face of WWE, that's going to be slight. And I think come WrestleMania, it's going to be, I mean, the focus is going to be more on Vince than it is going to be on WWE if more details come out.
Yeah.
You know, unless Triple H is named, in which case then we have an issue.
And that's part of the thing, is that it was pointed out that several people who used to work for Vince McMahon continue to work for Vince McMahon, and that this is a quote from Ronda Rousey, and I know none of us like Ronda Rousey, but she had a very good point. Bruce Pritchard has always been Vince McMahon's crony, and as long as Bruce is around, Vince is around.
Dude, there's definitely some sort of suppository brand jealous of the amount of air in Bruce Pritchard's ass that Vince's hand has gaped into it.
Wow, that is a way to put it, but absolutely wholly accurate.
And, you know, it's sad that he literally looks like a tick that's been on you for 36 hours. And it's just, I have no good things to say about Bruce Pritchard, but here's my point to this effect. How long are they going to remain employed there? Say what you want.
Not for long, I hope.
But Kevin Dunn is gone. Vince is gone. What's keeping the rest of Vince's cronies there now? Especially with The Rock showing up and throwing down some rock bottoms and some people's elbows. I suspect that we're going to see a little more overhaul, but we may not be wishing them the best of luck in their future endeavors.
Well, the future of Endeavor is going to be predicated on them leaving, so...
Yes.
I mean, we'll see what happens, but that kind of, concludes the news segment. I just want to, end it on this. We're going into a new era with professional wrestling, and it's truly exciting and scary. Mm-hmm. The thing, though, is that we just have to wait and see. That's all we can do at this point.
Agreed.
Well,
And I want to say this real quick. In so many different ways now, Vince McMahon has continued to be the biggest obstacle, the biggest saboteur of this fucking company for God knows how long now. Just the amount of problems creatively and outside of actual what we see on TV, behind the scenes. Who else has done more damage to this company than Vince McMahon? And we're still going to feel some aftershocks, even though he's gone, especially if even more vile and heinous reports come out in the coming days and weeks, months, maybe even years from now. We're still going to feel some reverberations from this, even until the day this man dies, which, knowing him, that's going to be another 100 years from now, because whatever machine they have him plugged up to. But still, I'm glad that hopefully he's gone for good, but the damage that he's done to this company is just, it's sad. Imagine making a company, being a part of making this company so successful, and then being the biggest problem with it, and being the one that is just I made this company so successful, now I'm going to kill it. Imagine being that guy.
Well, and that NWO run ended when Shawn Michaels kicked Booker T. So yeah. Let's not bring 2002 up, but to your point, Josh, again, it's so strange how Vince McMahon just completely destroyed John Cena's gimmick right now. Because Vince McMahon is now the most polarizing figure in professional wrestling, period.
Yeah.
Because on the one hand, he made a multimedia empire to the point where a company like Endeavor bought it for billions of dollars.
Dude, he made it to the point where when you say, like, normal average Joes on the street, when you say wrestling, what's the first thing they think? WWE.
Financially speaking, and business-wise, the foresight this man had multiple times with network TV and being a dick to WCW, or being a dick to the NWA and to Crockett, and completely bullying them out of their pay-per-view in '86, and destroying the territory system so that WWE, like you said, became the name for wrestling. Finding the best talent, the sizzle, not the steak, building that up. I mean, WCW had a chance briefly, but then gone their own way. But Vince figured things out until he got comfortable enough where he thought he could get away with everything. And that's where the product started to decline and the shit-hatting began. And but even the launch of the network, which is now subsequently shutting down in foreign markets, it's still on Peacock, but everyone who doesn't get Peacock in the foreign markets, the WWE network is shutting down at the end of the year as well, which was also announced, just a little tidbit to the end of that. But that was, hey, we want to be the Netflix of wrestling. That idea, Vince conceptualized to get that. It just didn't necessarily match the subscriber count he was hoping for. But how much did the network sell to Peacock for? Ridiculous number. Like, to get all of that. He's always been ahead of the game when it came to the selling and the business. But Vince McMahon is a Dark Side of the Ring season by himself.
Oh, fucking greed.
This is the wildest thing. It's just, we did not know the level. We all knew that he had this in him, but little did we know the level we were talking about here. And I think what's so jarring about this isn't the fact, isn't the details of what this is itself. It's the fact that we know this to be in line with Vince, but we did not know the degree of how drastically vile the other side was. We knew there was some sick stuff, but not that kind of sick stuff. And the thing is, with sociopaths like Vince who don't have that level of empathy in them, there's no filtration system between that. So it all feels the same level for Vince, I'm sure, in the attempt to achieve said feeling of euphoria and winning. But it's all about control. And the fact is, Vince did not have that filter in the same way that other people like him do. And it's just, now it gives me hope that this is turning a page, that WWE is now in a position that they can jettison the guy that brought them to the dance. And this is from a company that jettisoned Hulk Hogan for a time. And now they have to do the same thing with Vince. And you can't erase Vince McMahon from history. You can't.
They did that on their website, though.
Yeah, well, yeah, but you can't do that until he's dead. And that is, it's gonna be a really interesting couple of years, I think, where we're gonna find out just to the extent. And then just to add into this, Jerry McDevitt retired right before all this happened.
Yup.
Before this all started.
He was like, yep, I'm out. I'm not getting any of this on me.
That should have been the indicator.
Yeah.
That it was time to go.
That was not a bullet dodge. That was a nuke dodge.
Yeah. That was literally that guy, I forget his name, that survived Hiroshima, then drove to Nagasaki and survived Nagasaki. And said, you know what? I'm just gonna go ahead and leave. Yeah.
I've seen some shit. And it's about to hit the fan like you've never seen before. I'm good.
Yeah, but I think now is a very palpably exciting time, and I think that a lot of people who have been waiting for this moment the Vince is finally gone for good, what's going to happen? Given what we've got with Triple H staying within the rules, what's going to happen when he breaks them? And that's what the move it to Netflix is going to show us. And in that, I trust the process. And while Skyler cringes himself into a heart attack, we're going to go to our first commercial break. And when we come back, we are going to give you the entire Royal Rumble review. But until then, folks, thank you all for listening to our shenanigans to the news. And don't shit on anyone's heads, okay? We'll be right back.
Yeah, at least wipe it off.
No, not even once.